Welcome to Ascension with V, where we talk about spiritual awakening, ascension, and everything in between. I'm your host, Stashia Jeanette, aka V, and today we have a special guest who's about to take us on a journey with their unique gifts and experiences. Wise, please tell us about all the things that you do, why we're here, and dive into whatever topic that you want to start out talking about first.
Yes, of course. Well, we're all here pretty much as avatars, in a
Yes.
reality at that point. I'm wise, but also in this reality, in this environment, I'm also a property tax consultant. So, I deal with day to day. I'm pretty much your Clark Kent.
No, not Clark Kent.
Everybody has that. Everybody has a superhuman like nature to them.
Yes.
Like, sometimes we have to still operate in our day to day society because there's certain social conditioning that happens or occurs to the point where sometimes it's there to challenge us, that social conditioning,
Right.
kind of getting us to hide our power. But when we really want to just fly off and just try to save the world and everybody,
Yeah.
it's not common. It's not popular at that.
Right. And it is that, that thing of us trying to having to kind of do the Clark Kent of by day we're this and by night we're X, Y, and Z,
Hmm.
and hiding, not even really hiding, but just kind of, having to suppress what we are in the day-to-day life. But then we're this entire other spiritual, extraterrestrial, extraordinary being outside of, just this human vessel. And how is it that people are able to go in and out of these forms, switch from Clark Kent by day and superhuman superhero by night? How are we able to do these things? How are we able to switch up like that?
Discern, discernment is always necessary. You have to have that discernment to know which situation calls for that Clark Kent, what situation calls for that Superman or Batman or Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Even Bruce,
Right.
he doesn't even identify himself as Bruce Wayne. He's like, I'm Batman. He really to the core know,
To the
yeah, Bruce Wayne is more of a mask than the Bat.
you right.
Yeah. And sometimes in our day to day, sometimes we have to put on a mask because there's certain, entities and people that we want to protect. And, we do understand that the world is not,
Ready.
yeah, it's not ready.
Do you think, on that note, do you think that where we're at currently, starting this 2025 year, do you think that we are in a position where we're progressing into the human populace being more prepared or more ready for, kind of the us hidden superheroes to be more outwardly with who and what we truly are? Or do you think that we're kind of like stagnant or not making progress with it? Where do you think your projection for the Earth's populace preparedness is?
I want to say that we're splitting off into two separate
Hmm.
timelines of existence at this point. Where you have a certain population that's going to be more stuck into the three-dimensional realm, and the ones that tap into that five-dimensional realm to the point where they're actually transmuting the energy. They're
Right.
that's creating the conditions versus being overwhelmed by conditioning. For this year, I want to say we're all like a good percentage of us going to tap into that higher power and that truth that calls us to get done exactly as it's done in here
Right.
on earth.
Right. Do you feel like, energetic wise, do you feel like there is more of a heaviness or a lightness to this year's energy?
It's gonna be it's challenging, so it's a bit heaviness because it's mass programming that we're up against.
Correct.
We're actually seeing for the first time that y'all really don't understand that y'all are sleeping. Right,
This is a thing. Like this has been happening.
right.
Right.
Realizing that. So it's like, now a lot of times we're kind of like there's this movie Chicken Little
Yeah.
where it's telling people, hey, the sky is
The
falling.
sky is falling.
And and I know for myself, I've been telling people the sky is falling since 2004.
Yeah.
It's 2025 and I'm like,
25.
I've done made my preparations
Yeah.
that are like, hey, yo, did you know that the sky was falling? I'm like,
Been
what?
been been saying this.
Yeah, we've been building the ark.
We've been doing it. Literally, I said this on one of my other interviews. I think it was a couple of weeks back where I said the exact example. I said, it kind of feels like a lot of us have just been kind of the modern day Noahs, where, like God's source universe has come to us and been like, hey, so this is what's coming and this is what's happening, like build this ark, gather your people, X, Y, and Z. And then everyone else is like, what are you doing? We live in the Sahara Desert. There's not been rain here for decades upon decades. And we're in the middle of a desert. What are you talking about? Building an ark, building a boat. We don't have any water. It never rains. And you're like, listen, I'm prepared. I'm getting prepared. I'm building this ark because it's gonna rain. It's gonna flood actually. But everyone else is like, we live in the desert. What are you talking about? There's no rain. There's no need for a boat here. It's very much this the Chicken Little, the Noah's Ark example for sure.
And that goes right into the fact of our environment. It's like
Mm,
people are already conditioned to see this environment almost from that three-dimensional aspect. So they don't make proper preparations to themselves for the storms that's to come because they're continuing to function on that timeline of a three-dimensional reality versus, and that goes into the timeline split versus the five-dimensional reality, five-dimensional where you're starting to see what's taking place on more of a higher realm.
like
Because
the zoomed out perspective.
right. And you start to like take notices like, oh, I see this pattern going on. Oh, I see this. I see this. Here's the thing, and you know this better than anyone. Most alchemists, they use their calculations of timely events according to what's happening above in the stars.
Exactly.
Exactly, like, okay, we know when this star reaches, when we reach to this part of the atmosphere, certain conditions are going to take place down on Earth.
Exactly. Exactly. When planetary and even like for me, I'm very like attuned with the moon. Not even just the moon, but like astrologically, kind of like you said, I can tell when I'm like Pluto's doing a thing and I know I can feel it prior to it doing its thing. I'm like, oh, this is what's going to happen here on Earth and how people are going to start acting. Like I'm energetically prepared for what's coming in, and I'll try to tell people, who have ears to hear what it is that I'm saying. Like, hey, don't freak out. I try to give what I call the energetic forecast for like the week or the month, and to tell people kind of exactly what you said. This is what's coming in. Like don't freak out. But not a lot of people are attuned to be able to understand what it is that I'm saying, in this aspect of this is what's happening astrologically, and this is how it is going to affect people.
Right. A lot of people are not. They're not using their awareness. They're not using their that's the core of it right there. They're not using their awareness. They're not
Yeah,
examining things, and they're not
it's
taking the time to examine certain
that
because
that how how do people, guys, going back to the environment topic, how do people become aware of their environments and how can they be the ones that influence their environments? Obviously the awareness has to be a part of it, but beyond that, what can you tell me about it?
I can say that before you really interact with the outer environment, you also have to prepare your inner environment.
Right.
So it's like we're energetically, we're transmitting energy. We're
Exactly.
transmitters. So we're receiving energy, we're also emitting energy. And
Right.
most of the times, before we go out into the environment, sometimes we have to put a gate of awareness and discernment in those open energy centers to where we're receiving energy.
Right.
And we also have to tame some of the energy that we emit because sometimes it can be too strong for who we interact with in the environment. So how a person can actually start making certain predictions about their environment, one, assessing their triggers or assessing my triggers like, hey, when I feel something and that intuition speaks to me, then I'm like, yo, you know what? Maybe I should reassess. Maybe I should go this way versus that way. You know,
Right.
functions are there for a reason. Meditation also comes in to the point where we take that pause. You can actively meditate. Like sometimes we'll sit and we can meditate. Like most of the times, I'll per day meditate for probably like 15 minutes or less than that. I'm striving to, go longer than that. But in those meditations, I'm able to optimize my awareness.
Yes.
Oftentimes we don't, like stated, we don't give ourselves time to process things or to become aware to the point where we're seeing how certain developments are taking shape in our environment. So here's the thing about this 3D realm, this environment, is that it's being conditioned through the 4D realm of time. Time is
Right.
illusion, like Maya. Maya
Yes.
is illusion, and it's governing the conditions of what happens here on Earth. It's governing the cycle of growth and diminishing. But that's only the material realm. We have something much more excellent that can transcend that material reality, and that's the mind. Once we build up that awareness in the mind, we start to shape and form the energies that we come into contact with on a day-to-day basis. Is heightened awareness at that point, because
Right.
one, you have to pair that awareness with discernment. I can be aware, subconscious can be aware, but if I don't have any discernment, then I might end up being conditioned, or I might be taking in
Mm.
flags with the green flags, and I don't know which is which.
Right. Right. Right.
Mm.
Yeah, because again, I've also been there where it's, when you're not fully aware or, kind of having this heightened sensitivity, even like you said, once you get that heightened sensitivity, if you don't have that discernment to be able to differentiate kind of what's yours or what's not yours, what's the green flag and what's the red flag, I've been in that predicament where, everything blended together and it was just overload. And then I wanted to do the thing where I was like, no, I don't want to feel this at all. And then that's also like danger zone, because you don't want to turn it off and you don't want to
Yeah, you
you
don't
don't
want.
want to, yes, you don't want to ignore it, like it is, once you master that discernment and you're able to know, oh, like this is what's happening, this is what's going on with me, this is what's mine and this is what's this other person's, and be able to, like you said, put that kind of gate of awareness and discernment between, hey, this is mine, this is yours, and kind of create that buffer zone, so to speak. It does make things a lot easier, but to your point, it does take a lot of practice, a lot of you know just take 5 to 10 minutes throughout your day to check in with your body and be like, am I okay? What's going on with me? Process your thoughts, process your feelings, process your environment. And you saying, doing 15 minutes. 15 minutes is a lot. Really, it is, of just sitting with self and understanding everything that's going on with you and your energy and your environment. People can live in the same space their entire life. And if they've not taken that 5 to 15 minutes to just sit and pause in that space in their room, they could miss, "Oh, has this clock been here the entire time?" Like literally little minute things of this nature that you had no idea. You've lived in the same place for 15 years, but you didn't notice certain things around your environment because you just didn't take the time to sit and process. So it is very much that the necessary step of having that time to sit and process.
Indeed. And it brings about peace. I have this acronym for peace, which is pause, educate awareness, check energy. And the thing about it is, when we take that pause, we're able to educate our awareness, in the sense that awareness is almost like, it's like playing ball. And you have the ball, you have to take that ball to the court. That ball represents your awareness. Oftentimes, we'll get lost in society's conditioning to the point where we lose the ball. No, we no longer have that ball. And then we end up carrying somebody else's ball to the wrong goal. And then it's like, because I've been distracted, because oh man, I haven't been in tune. It's like when we start to take that time to actually educate our awareness through meditation, through pausing, then we're able to, have a better defense when it comes to how we carry that ball.
Right.
We're eyes open. I'm
Right.
okay, where do I need to go with this? Let me take my time, because time is already an illusion. So let me take proper into the reality I want to create for myself.
Exactly. And I love that. That's the most accurate example I've ever heard in that for that of having the ball, because it is absolutely, if you're distracted immediately, somebody else done took the ball, you now over here carrying it to the opponent's court. You done shot a 3-pointer into the into the opponent's court, won the game for them,
Right.
Tragic.
Very, very.
Tragic. Okay, on the conditioning, can you tell me more about what conditioning is and what are some like common examples of conditioning that currently right now our world and the people of earth are experiencing? More to the point of how are people breaking out of this conditioning with the split that's happening, especially in this whole, I think we mentioned it on our last podcast, the age of Aquarius happening and the split happening. How are people now breaking out of that conditioning?
It's almost like a seed that's hatching. Whenever we have the science of cultivation, and cultivation is when alchemists looks at the stars, they're able to tell what conditioning patterns will happen to the soil here on Earth. So from the mineral to the star, they're able to draw parallels and start to make measurements as far as like, oh, okay, this is the perfect season for this to grow. This is the perfect season for this to hatch. Now, when we get into the conditioning fields, and what conditioning is simply cultivation. It's cultivation. Now, conditioning can happen to the body, to the material realm, but it can also happen to the mind as well, mental. So we're exploring a plane that elevates itself from just the physical or material realm to now we're getting into the mental realm, and we're about to go to the astral and then to the causal realm to explain how we are being conditioned. A person that realizes themselves as the seed, what they do is they go through a process of their own seasons. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm in a seasonal funk right now. How do I get out of this? Well, I'm gonna have to take my time and really start to assess certain situations and, break free from that. It's the breakthrough. What happens is the seed, given its proper conditioning, it will hatch. It will break through. All of a sudden, now you see a leaf forming. It's starting to blend in with the soil, and then it breaks ground, and it's given rise due to the atmosphere, due to the conditions in the atmosphere, but most importantly, due to the sun. The sun always represents awareness.
Right.
That's what awareness even boils down to. It takes awareness to get through the conditioning, to break through whatever had us dark and just, buried in the soil. Now,
Right.
some people, might be a bit on a hollow tip or a shallow tip. And it's like, okay, well, that's their conditioning. There's not all seeds are going to grow. It depends
Right.
becoming self-aware. It comes down, it boils down to a person's self-awareness to how we interact with conditioning. And then it gets to a point where when you start to exercise more of your awareness and educate more of your awareness, you start to like, oh, you know what? Not today. Nope, nope, not today.
No
Yeah, right, right. Start to draw lines and boundaries, and you
boundaries.
prepare yourself for like, okay, that's not the season to do that. That's not the season to do this. And then you'll start to calculate the time. Solomon
Hmm.
always went to this Solomon quote, who says that a wise man is one who sees what's going to be born. The only way you can see what's going to be born is when you are actively aware of the current of events.
Right.
You can become current of that energy is for you to be presently aware of that energy. When I'm presently aware, I can see certain conditions like maybe this should move, maybe this should move that way. Like we're saying, we can dictate, we can dictate where the red flags go, put it all in the worst,
Yes.
and we can dictate
Yes.
green flags. Let's put it over here. That's what we do. We start to calculate. The more
Yes.
calculated we are and precise we are, reality, we'll be able to master conditioning or master our environments. We'll be able to condition the environment versus letting the environment condition us.
Right. What is the difference between conditioning and programming?
Mm, that's a good one. Conditioning and program.
Sorry, I threw you a curveball there, but it came through like ask this. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
I, I love it. There's certain programming that is somewhat forced. It's a propaganda. It's more man-made than anything. It's like, oh, okay. Well, sometimes you have certain people or certain entities that
Yes.
take advantage of what's being conditioned, and then they'll weaponize it to their
Right.
advantage to probably get you to do some type of labor.
Like, what's an example?
An example would be slavery. Slavery was a mass programming. They had to break down man, woman, and child, but
Exactly.
they couldn't just break them down physically. They had to break them down mentally.
Mentally.
Programming. Not only are we giving you a harsh environments to grow, well, not even grow, but just to be in, but we're also going to go ahead and pretty much pitch something, a program to your mind, so that way you don't think of yourself higher than
Right.
where we done leveled you at.
Right.
So programming in that sense, yeah, it's very real. And it still happens today, because even a
Yeah.
horse, a horse could be like as powerful as it is. You can leash that horse up to a chair, and because that leash is there, they're programmed to believe, and this is the thing, belief systems are programs, but they're programmed
Right.
to believe that, man, you know what? I can't move. I can't go.
Right.
It's once
It's
they break
facts.
once they break that programming, once they break that mental programming, that mental lock on them, that they'll be able to, okay, you know what? The conditions are actually nice right now. I can actually,
I can actually go.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a I saw, speaking of the horse thing, I saw this thing a long time ago about the like a horse that has been kept in a stable for a really long time. Like if they got let out, like if they opened the stable door and was like, you can run free at any time, literally the door was open, but like they just would stay in there, because that was just their environment for forever. That's just what they were used to. And they're like, why would I go outside of here? That.
Domestication. And that's what it is. Domesticated. Oh, even people. And then, I mean, when you talk about a person that's been domesticated, you know, because they have certain, it's not even at that point, it's not even conditioning, because the conditions could be good for that person, but
Right.
they're programmed to believe that, because these labels that exist and everything, these labels who I am and identify with, I can't go no further than. It's like, it's a limiting effect. It's limitation.
Yeah. Yeah, there was an example I gave when I was writing that there's these conditions, kind of going to what you said, there's these conditions where a lot of times if you wanted to, I called it the art of spiritual warfare,
Mm.
where if you wanted to break somebody down to become submissive to whatever the plan for that spiritual warfare was, the steps that went through it were kind of, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of like MK Ultra.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's like kind of like this where, but you would put the person of target, the target here, under an immense amount of stress, of suffering, of trauma from like a really young age throughout their lifetime, to essentially break down their mentality, break down their beliefs, break down who they are or what they think that they can do, right? And then you then introduce them to, these limiting conditions or beliefs, like putting on a pair of headphones, and instead of it being positive affirmations, it's just like negative things of like what you can't do and what you can't be. And I wrote in my book, it was the example was, I don't know if you've seen Harry Potter.
Yeah, I've seen everybody. The movies.
What's the girl in the pink with the cats? She was an instructor, and she had that weird little like hiccup laugh, and she came in and was making Harry Potter write these things like, I will not tell lies, over and over on her.
And she happened to be a villain. But
Yes.
yeah, she was a villain because she was actually brought by some council or whatever. But
Yes.
yeah, I remember. I forgot her name.
Yeah, Humphrey. Yes, that was her name, Humphrey. Thanks. uh this is like the example that I was given when I was writing of like the introducing of, like kind of putting the headphones on, but the things that you're hearing is like this kind of like that, like, I will not tell lies, all these limiting things,
Mm.
instead of, but this is like a process of this kind of programming. The conditioning was, we'll put you under this immense amount of stress and trauma, for your entire life, and then essentially strip away who you are and what you thought you could be or what you thought you could do, and then just introduce all these like negative programs to you, and then the outcome is you have become whatever it is that the target of this spiritual warfare wanted you to be,
Mm,
but this take this exact example and like apply it to old earth, and this is kind of what we've had. We've had a whole lot of this conditioning and programming to kind of keep us as these like modern day slaves almost.
right. More mental slave than anything. Yeah,
That,
it's the programming in itself that we have to break. I mean, this program can be fed through even social music. I mean, social media through music.
yeah, through music.
And think about it, media is mediums. So with
Facts.
mediums, we have to when we and it's not to say like hey, don't listen to certain music or don't watch a certain. If you do, just watch it with awareness. That's the reason why.
Open eyes.
Yeah, that's why they have program PG.
Tell.
Like, hey, you might want to utilize your awareness because if you get lost in this type of dream we're pretty much presenting to you, and you're not using that discernment, all of a sudden
Right.
reality.
Correct.
And yeah, and a lot of people are starting to break free from that because I mean, a lot of people are starting to see even the narratives like
Yeah.
this narrative was never really a function for me, but why am I enacting it in real time right now? Oh, it's
It's
because
like exactly. It's like BET. I hate saying it like so bad, but it is. It's like I I think it's the worst thing that happened to us as a race, because the whole propaganda of what, right. Do you know what I'm saying? And what like what we're supposed to be like, what we're supposed to act like, it's nothing but like shaking ass and titties is what the women are supposed to be like, and the norm for the men is we're supposed to have pants sagging, you're supposed to be, out on the streets, and even in rap music, like currently all you hear about is the propaganda of, in order for you to be successful, you got to have a Patek, you have to have the Audemars, you have to have the Cartier, you got to have the Balenciaga, you have to have the Givenchy, you have to have the Versace, all the things, and then you have to have like 19 women on you, and it's just is all the things that has nothing to do with who we really are as gods and goddesses. That's not it at all, but it has been the way to just, I feel like, keep us at a certain level,
mm,
and we've just ate it up. But it's really time now, for us to come into this awareness of what's actually happening, understand the game that's being played, and what our part in participating in it has been. Because again, what did they say? Like, history ignored is doomed to repeat itself. And I just feel like that's been one of the most current examples of our conditioning and programming that we have been living through for quite a while. And they say that like, oh, slavery is ended, but did it though?
right, right. Did it?
But did it?
Yeah, because they still separating men, women, and children as we speak, but
Correct.
program level than it is on what we've been observed in history. And that's the thing: the person that don't research their history, they don't come to the
Yeah.
understanding of what happened and occurred. They're doomed to repeat it because now they're no longer. It's again ball technique, right? All of a sudden, I done lost my ball, and I'm
Yeah.
geared into this program belief that I gotta have the flashiness to go ahead and be successful, and then
Right.
and that person has to love my flashiness and degrade her
Right.
speed to what you know
What? Like, we took a wrong turn somewhere like a while back. It just, that's not it. It's just it's just not it at all. But we're now at the, like I said, at this pivotal point where we get to choose. I say it all the time, evolve or repeat. So we're at the pivotal point now where the option is being presented to us here. Are you going to evolve, or are you going to repeat? Are you going to choose to stay on this timeline of thinking that you have to stay at a certain level of this enslavement or this unawareness, or are you going to choose to wake up and rise to who and what you truly are? And I feel like that's a lot of what's happening or coming in to be happening for 2025 through 2027 is a lot of this. We talked about, I think, on last thing, and that a lot of tower moments happening, a lot of reveals being happening, a lot of deconstruction taking place, at least for the America, in America is what's taking place. And with that, how can the ones who are choosing to evolve start to master their realities, control their realities and outcomes instead of allowing it to control them?
It it takes alchemy, and it takes a certain alchemical function to actually change reality. Because when we're dealing with alchemy, we're talking about change. When it comes to change, the only thing that really produces change over time itself, is that mind, it's that illusion. It's like once we break free of that actual time lapse of conditioning, we start to enter a process of enlightenment to where we're able to restore parts of ourselves that's probably haven't been healed. And that's important. Restoration is important when it comes to reality, because sometimes we're living a reality that is probably from a preconditioned past, or probably from a trauma that happened like years ago, and we're still running in that same cycle. It becomes,
Right,
now it's like we're dealing with, okay, a past situation that continues to cycle itself, or we're not even in the future yet, but we're thinking about it, and we're escaping our actual present reality. Meanwhile, we're kind of stagnant. We're not actually even pushing towards that actual frequency that's going to match our reality.
right,
What what needs to occur is restoration. It's restoring parts of ourselves to where we probably wasn't healed yet. We haven't came to that healing factor yet. So it's once we're restored, once we have that balance, because that's the one thing we have to take into consideration, is what is our balance? Is our balance,
right.
like, is it being equal to just a social functioning, being equal to a supreme function, our higher self, that Superman reality, versus
Right.
Clark Kent reality? It's like, Clark Kent, I can only get so far, but I know I can change the world with this Superman aware.
Superman. Yes.
So it's only when we restore that balance of self that we start to operate with a superior awareness, superior state of mind, to the point where we start actually transmuting the conditions that come about, the energies that come about. We start transmuting according to ascendant, ascendants, and we start to draw to us a reality that we are matching, a frequency.
Yes.
Bob Proctor
Yes.
said that he said it best. It's like, your thought waves. That's the magnetic function within itself, because it attracts matter. It attracts
Yes.
through energy,
Yes.
through frequency, through vibration, matter. And
Right.
that what everything is consisting of is matter. Matter is actually beyond matter. It's actually just energy. It's frequency. It's the particles through a wave function is vibrating at a speed where it becomes a frequency.
Yes.
That becomes the product, or that becomes the matter. If we want to achieve a greater reality, we have to actually match that. We have to match that, and we can't do it from a place to where we're still thinking about what happened when we were 12 or something, or we have to heal those parts first. Otherwise, we're going to be bringing that balance into a frequency, and we ain't going to know how to even handle
Exactly. Outside of shadow work, I mean, that's something that I frequently talk about, is doing a lot of shadow work and, acknowledging those past traumas and things that happened within your childhood, things that, you suppressed or repressed or tried to not deal with. What are some examples of ways that you could give for people to start to come into balance, get back to that homeostasis and their ground zero to begin to embark on doing these things?
them study themselves. Oftentimes, I mean, like, we're talking about spiritual warfare. Sometimes the enemy studies you.
Yeah.
better than you study yourself. So they know exactly what moves you're going to make. Just
Right.
the horse analogy we used earlier, because
Right.
that condition. So it's not until we start to study ourselves, start to study our triggers, when we start to study like how we're actually interacting with people, how we're interacting
Right.
our environment, then we start to kind of check, set up certain checkpoints. It's that
Mm,
start to utilize that discernment to be like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe if I hold the ball this way and I try this way, I can get it to this. So it becomes experimentation. It's
exactly.
like you're a scientist of self. That's the only way you're going to get to that homeostasis, that balance, is when you start to study yourself to equal that balance, to get
Right.
back then. You have to
Right.
study, and that what brings you into self-awareness in order to even draw out that best version of yourself to match that the best reality possible. You
Right.
have to draw that out, and you have to discard or refine the parts of you that's just not, it's not benefiting.
Exactly.
The toxic parts of you. It's almost kind of like taking the environment, for example. When it rains,
Yes.
you heard of acid rain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for people who haven't, what is that?
Yeah. So for people who haven't, if you're in an environment that's full of toxic elements, what's happening is precipitation is going to draw up that water from that environment, and then it's going to distill back, but it's going to be acid rain because of the toxic elements that are happening on that planet, or in that certain environment, that secluded environment. We have to clean that up. We have to clean up, that not just the surface of ourselves, but just clean up the way we think, because some
Right.
we have no idea that our subconscious is leaking out, or we're expressing outward
Yeah.
toxicity that we haven't been able to develop or see within ourselves. So that toxicity, and we're wondering why. Well, you know what? I haven't really been of a sound mind. I haven't been of a cleansed spirit, and it's
Right.
until we get to that level of conditioning to where like we're conditioning ourselves with that understanding, with that mastery over ourselves, that we're governing ourselves at that point, that will be
That
refined.
you're the one that now is the magician, right? That you have become the magician at that point.
That part.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. That's exactly how we do it. It's the function, because I'm glad you brought the magician. But the magician,
Yes.
we have two types of functions within ourselves. We have an alchemist function, but we also have that magician. Sometimes we play tricks on ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes we trick ourselves out of our power. Sometimes we trick ourselves out of that blessing. And it's once we cut through with discernment that we'll be able to check ourselves. That's why peace is important. That's why meditation is important. I have to be able to take that pause, educate my awareness, and check the energy first within myself before I start distributing this out into the world and wondering why I'm getting back, getting back.
Craziness.
Yeah,
Craziness. Yeah, and to that point, there have been times again when I was first, becoming aware of, of who I am, what am I doing, I was going through a whole bunch of, I called myself being in like the Groundhog Day loop. Do you know what I mean? And it was rough. I was on like a whole lot of medication, like the SSRIs and things of this nature that essentially suppressed who and what I was, and I literally had no idea. But to your point of what you said, like the enemy studies you. So the enemy knew exactly what I was capable of doing, gift wise, spirituality wise, and use that magician part of me essentially against myself. So I was then continuously, like year after year, putting myself back into this, the loop that they wanted me to stay in, of like, oh, you're sick, or you're going through the, you've known me for a long time, right? So like you've seen the things that I've gone through. And but at one point, I remember being like, this is something's up here. I think just something happened where I was like, enough is enough. I don't know what's happening here, but something's going on and I've had enough of it. And I spent, I think, the longest time, a full year of just diving deep within myself to figure out what's going on, literally deconstructing every part of myself from the inside out. And it was both the scariest thing and the most freeing thing ever, because while I was going through it, I remember being in this like dark box, and while I was in this box, like I could see kind of like, pixels, like my body becoming pixelated and just seeing parts of the pixels of me like drifting out into this just darkness. And as things were going away from me, parts of me I couldn't remember. Like I had to keep saying what my name was and repeating, this is my name and this is where I live, because it was like this whole, what I can only describe it as at this point being like a deconstruction of the things that I was not, that was happening. But
Mm.
it was a scary experience to go through. But after I had that happen, I woke up the next morning and I just decided things are going to be different now. And I never looked back, but I became very much aware after that night of what was happening to me. And I realized like I could see the strings, that were being pulled, kind of like puppeteering
Hmm.
of what was happening to me. And I remember I did this like massive cord cutting ritual thing, and I could see kind of like these like witch altars like breaking and shattering and strings being cut, and it was this whole full thing. But you don't know how much is really truly happening behind the scenes if when you're just asleep and not aware of anything that's going on in your physical reality and in your spiritual reality. Like so much can go on. But again, to your point, if you don't know yourself, you can best believe that your enemies know. They know exactly who you are and what you're capable of. That's why like the best example for anybody who's skeptical of what I'm saying or what you've said on this about your enemies knowing, the people who hate on you the most, they hate because they know what you're capable of. They know that you're going to be something. They know you're going to be successful. They know that you have the capabilities to be, something great. They see your greatness and your shine and your most authentic self before you do. And that's a real thing. That is a real thing.
Very much so. Very much so. Starts at the causal plane. Starts at the
Yeah.
comes to you start to look. Have you read the Kabbalion? You read the Kabbalion, right?
Mm-mm.
It's a good book to read,
Okay.
but you start to study like the seven universal laws, which is and this is from the Kabbalion, such as the law of vibration, the law of mentalism, the law of correspondence, the law of rhythm, the law of gender, the law of, let me see, what's the one I'm missing? Oh, the law of polarity, very important. And then also the law of cause and effect. Cause and
Yeah.
You have to learn that you are the cause of your reality. When you start to
Yeah.
learn that you're the cause of everything around you that exists around you, like, how did I end up here? Well, I made this decision. Well, I made that decision. Then there were certain decisions you made,
Yes.
almost like you chose this adventure, and because you
Yes.
got to work and everything, you actually broke through and started making certain decisions that led you even to right here, right now.
Right.
When you start to access that from a causal plane, because that's what causal mean, it's the cause.
Yes.
Start to elevate your mind to the point where, man, you know what, I am the cause of this reality.
Yeah.
Awareness, that's when you're born alive. That's when you start to come into that awareness to where, like, I'm operating on a plane. Actually, I'm not being moved by the strings of the
Right.
happening in the world.
Right.
I'm playing myself in a 3D realm. That's
Yes.
awareness. I'm actually playing myself. It's like a video game. I'm using this body to get some work.
It's literally this. It's literally this. I go back so frequently to the video game thing. And the other night I had a dream of exactly this, but like I was like choosing my avatar,
Mhm.
and I was like, yo, this is literally what's happening. This is just us absolutely playing a video game. And and we come up against, just like in a normal video game, like you come up against different levels with like different bosses that you have to beat, and you have to go on different quests and adventures. But like along the way there's like these different little mini side quests and things that you go through, and people that you have to collaborate with to help you along the adventure. And things of this nature, but like we're all playing like Skyrim or something together. Like there's just always some sort of new boss or new battle that you have to go on, but we chose this game.
Right.
We chose this avatar that we're in currently, and it's like our higher self playing playing the game.
In a holographic universe, and that's exactly correct.
Yes, like
Holographic universe. Like the only reason why we observe everything as a plane and not as a sphere is because it's our eyes. It's our
yes,
optic illusion.
yes, like what? But again, no, literally, I'm like, this is the most mind blowing. Like, what even are we talking about? Like, what category of study does this go in? Is this quantum physics? What is this?
It
I've
becomes
said this.
yeah,
It's
it's quantum mechanics more than anything because it start to really you start to go inward, and the more you travel, think about it is the more you start to travel inward,
mhm,
start to travel towards yourself, and you start to refine certain negatives that come about.
right.
Out of like even with our makeup, our story arc, such as playing a video game. We first we play this avatar, and this avatar has to go through certain challenges, certain levels, and
Yeah.
every there's a devil that they have to defeat or whatever, right? So this is all happening within ourselves. We're
Yeah.
sometimes having to go back down our timeline, like to the past, almost time travel, right? And
Yes.
share and refine certain parts of ourselves that was once negative. And it's like, oh man, I have to work because here's the thing about refinement. Refinement is to take away the impurity of something, of a substance. The thing about when you were born here on this earth, you were pure. You were
Right.
baby, you were innocence. But the more that we went through this environment, the more we started to get certain negative tethering, negative, you know, entities to us and everything. And we're still trying to make it. We're still trying to break through. And then we get to this certain age and we're like, ah, damn, I don't know if I have.
Damn. Yeah.
But then when we go back and start to travel, and we're like, man, you know what? I remember where this happened. I could have handled that differently. I remember where this happened. All is forgiven. That person. I remember where this happened. You just start to read negatives into. Let me not make this a chain that's going to link me to a reality that no longer exists. I am not.
Right.
I'm a present. I'm a presence. I'm
Yeah.
a presence having an experience. Have to be present. The definition of a supreme being. Supreme is the highest state in quality and being means simply existing. We already exist. But the thing about it is we haven't tapped in within ourselves to draw out that higher quality, that higher state. Not actually present. We're not actually existing. We're
Yeah.
dead. But it's once we start to become born alive in the mind and we enter this realm of new awareness, starting at the causal plane, that we start to make certain conditions and terms and we start to reign over our own reality. Now all of it,
Right.
okay, I can take a negative, chop it up, kung fu with it. I'm able to yeah, you're able to go ahead and just start,
Yeah.
this of almost like a martial artist, and you have to. It's war and peace.
X.
You have to be a gardener. You have to be. You rather be a gardener at war or a warrior in the garden. That's a Mayamoshi quote. He's a samurai, and I study him. I study his path and everything. And I mean, like he's a very powerful samurai, and his quotes and concepts. I love that concept in itself because it's saying that you do, even though you can be a peaceful person, you have to condition yourselves in ways of warfare too, because war is all about deception, and we're in a reality where we're being tricked through
Yeah.
time and illusion, and we're given timelines to the point where we're tethered to a past that don't exist. We're
Right.
it's like when you're present, is there a problem?
Right.
There's no problem right now. I was probably feeling a certain way at a certain time. But then it's like the more I come into my presence, it's the more I'm like, I'm really good. There's nothing that exists.
All is well here.
Yeah.
What's the problem? Yeah, it Wise, you're absolutely right though, like because there is this thing of like my thing is that I am always more in the future. So like me worrying about shit that hasn't even happened, or that like possibly could happen. And so, to your point, my guides and God source universe will frequently be like, okay, but when you're meditating, like, is there an issue? Are you like, how do you feel right now? When I turn everything off, going into my room at the end of the day is like my sacred space. It's my zone, and it's my peace time. Whenever I'm in there, it's always the question. So how do you feel now? Good. This is, this is great. I love it here. Right. Like,
That all that matter at that point. That begin to matter.
yeah.
Matter. It's all coming from the mind. From mind to matter. You have to be a mind over your matters.
Yeah.
That awareness that's born from the mind to govern everything. We have to become that all seeing eye, or that all eye seeing within our
Yeah.
first. Because it's almost literally throughout my eyes, throughout your eyes, you're playing you. You're
Yes.
actually moving in a certain way in an action. And the only thing, since time is non existent, it's only just a tool of measurement. You have to be the person that's actually making time. I make time. I make time. Time doesn't make me.
Right. That. Yeah.
So
And there's also the thing of making time. I say all the time that there isn't a obviously the time is an illusion thing, but that people will be like, "Oh, I don't have time to, sit and meditate and do this, that, and the third." But you have time to worry, right?
right, right, and it, yeah, you're right. There'll be certain people like conversations, right, where I can discover a problem, but I'm still talking about a problem with this person and everything, and it's like, you know, out of all this, I could have probably been meditating to take my mind off the problem itself, and then come back to be better refined,
Yeah.
better pure, so that
Yes.
not, what, I see what you're saying right here. You know what? Now I'm starting to make time for a solution. I'm starting to make time to, like, draw up a result, a conclusion, something I can.
Exactly.
With your awareness and discernment, you have competence.
Ooh. Yeah. Because it is now it's shifting the perspective more than anything, like shifting the perspective from like, oh, it's just, I've got this problem and this that and the third going on, to okay, well, now this is what's happening right now, this is what I can and cannot control. you know Trying to control things has really kind of fucked me in my life, like trying to
Oh, it happened.
we have absolute we have absolutely, like, the things that we have control over are our mind and our emotions. Like, essentially, outside of that, trying to, everyone wanting to be like, we have to have this plan to do this, that, and the third, and we have to have this scheduled out and that. And it F's you big time in the long run, because that's not how energy works. That's not how life works. That's not how the universe exists. There is no time. Like, time is an illusion, and it's so constrained. It's like it's such a constraint to try and control every aspect of life, of people, of situations. The only thing that you should be really trying to focus on controlling is, again, your mind and your emotions. And that's it. And outside of that, following what makes you happy, following your passion, things that make you feel good. Like, that's what you should be focusing on, trying to put your attention on, to control. Everything outside of that is really just kind of effing you in the long run.
And you mentioned something, attention. That's the magic word right there, because awareness and attention, that's what's needed. It's almost synonymous. Almost not good enough. So let me explain. The thing about time is that it's more like, true, I master energy by attention. You have to be able to master your energy. That's more on like on a higher plane, on an astral plane tip, right? When it comes to energy, dealing with energy, that's above the 4D concept of the reality of dimensions. When the saying goes, wherever the attention goes, energy flows.
Energy flows.
I have to make time. I have to, I have to make certain measures. You start to come off from your causal plane to the point where, you know what, I'm not going to let this distraction take up my time. I'm going to become better attracted to what I want to create. If we think about it, what is the opposite of a distraction? Attraction.
Right.
So we have to be able to build ourselves up through attention, being attentive to what's happening in our reality, what's happening right now.
Yes.
The whole point of the meditation is to be attentive to now, because that's where
Right.
it exists. The current energy exists. And when we see the current, we see what's going to be born or what's going to be manifested.
Yeah.
So you're building up your wisdom.
Yeah. And also again, like going on with the attention and mastering the mind. Another thing that has been like a challenge for me is I think a lot of people who have like this neurodivergence is again to trying to just hone your mind into again what's happening right here, what's happening with what's in front of you, what you're doing right now, what's the task of right here. And so for me, I do try to say, okay, so that for the next however so long. Honestly, the trying to set the time constraint again, the time trying to set a time constraint for me to focus on a certain thing. Somebody recommended to that I try that like time blocking. So give yourself 30 minutes to only focus on this task or give yourself an hour to only focus on that task and I hated it more than anything. But the thing that did work for me was saying, okay, so I'm going to edit this episode and then when I get done with this episode, I'm going to like give myself time to play and like that has been the most rewarding way for me to be in the here and the now and get certain things done, focus on what's in front of me in that manner rather than again setting a quote unquote time constraint to do stuff. I don't know.
No, teaching me something because I often sometimes create, and I recently broke out of creating time constraints. Like, now it's more like, okay, let me create periods of work, rest,
Yes.
play, work, rest, play.
Yes.
It's like in the moments of rest, it's almost like we're not context switching. We're not putting on the next hat to go to work or focus on the next task. It's more like, okay, let me give myself at least 15 minutes to meditate, 15 minutes or 30 minutes to relax, chill,
Mhm.
kind of leave the work that I done just perform behind.
Correct. Yes.
Let me go ahead and have fun. And then
Yes.
I'll be more excited about
Exactly.
working again because I'm like, okay, I don't, I feel good. I'm at 100%.
Yes. Yes, and it's that because again, we're not machines. We're really not. And again, it's like coming out of this old world conditioning of like must be doing all the time, must be doing and going into like human being. And a human being like we need to give ourselves time to give ourselves moments to just be and do things that bring us pleasure and bring do things that bring us joy because otherwise literally we have no morale and no more energy reserves or a want to do some of the more like mundane kind of humdrum things that being a human requires us to do in life. Then we get into that phase of burnout and then everything's just gone to shit at that point. Nothing's going to get done. But to your point, when you give yourself the we're resting, we're going to work, rest, and then play. And work doesn't have to be, you don't have to be working for 9 hours straight, to accomplish something. Literally, work can be that you accomplish that one task that's been holding over your head for the last week and you got it done. It could be you did a pile of laundry today. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the case may be, give yourself time to rest after that and go and play. Like that's something that we need because we all have that inner child within us that needs that. Really.
Right. That's that inner innocence. And it's
Yes,
kind of buried. The thing about it is we have three parts of ourselves. We have that masculine, we have the feminine, but we also have that child. So
exactly.
it's like we have to, from time to time, everything has its place. It's like in the work stages, we're performing, we're putting in that masculine in it, right? It's for rest. You know what? Let me nurture. Let me get, that feminine off. And then when we
Yes.
play, we have that, oh, you know what? Let me get my inner child excited again. So that
Yes.
I can go back to working all for that child. I get
Yes.
become more conditioning myself. It's more of conditioning ourselves to be better present to this reality and not so much of a drag because it's like you know we getting caught up in the excess of one.
Yeah. Yeah. And so again, like I think that's just part of where we're at and the societal energy and where things are going now, where, this, it is a part of this shift, where those of us who are taking that step in our evolution, we've done a lot of just work, a lot of just boots to the ground, 10 toes down to get to the point to where we're stepping into right now, to get to the point of where we have kind of passed the baton of like that hard hitting, grueling work to the ones that are coming, that are, getting ready to step into it. And now we're entering into a phase of where we can just breathe. It's time for us to have fun. It's time for us to create. It's time for us to be more like enthusiastic and passionate about the things that we're creating and that we're going to do, after a lot of time, multiple, I mean, at least for me, it's been like 2 decades for me, a good 20 years for me. I don't know about you, where you're at in it, but I'm sure you're up there in that time as well, of where it's just been nothing but like a lot of really hard, heavy energy, work, trials and tribulations, stress, pain, and suffering.
Constantly saying that, constantly saying, because yeah, it's been about a good 20 years for myself. It's like I've come to the realization, it's like now I'm sharper even with my tongue, because it's like I'm not
Yeah.
going to sit here and watch this and see that playing in my face with this narrative right now. I'm tired of this whole history according to the conqueror's perspective. I'm gonna have to
Facts.
draw this up myself now, because I'm tired of seeing this and this being the reality.
Yeah.
Cut the bullshit, cut the belief system, utter awareness at this point.
Yeah, heavy with it too. Like I had a friend say, she was like, I was super intimidated by your energy, like just from our email correspondence, because she was like, it comes across heavy with that. Don't come over here with no bullshit
Mm,
energy. She's like, I mean it. She's like, and then when we got to talking, like it was, you're super fine. You were super fun and you were super nice and everything. She was like, but like, you've got that, like the first thing that hits you is the pungent, don't come over here with no shit.
yeah,
Don't you better come correct or don't come at all. Otherwise, I'm gonna get you in the spirit and I'm gonna get you in the physical. Don't do it.
that part, that
Like,
part.
don't do it.
That's
You
power
know,
talk right there. Like, because it's like, yo, I can get you on any plane. Like, stop. Aware
on
now.
any where you want the hands at.
Kung fu,
Facts. Don't come over here, because that's where we're at. And I feel like I gave the example of, it's like we have been at war for again, like these 2 decades, and now like, the game is switched. We're in a different game, but it's like the game switched mid war. Like, it's like, imagine us being on the battlefield, and you and I are looking over at each other and we're like, I got your back, I got your back, and it's like, and then all of a sudden the game switches and we're like playing Animal Crossing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you went from Call of Duty to Animal Crossing like mid game, and and now we're like, we're just meant to just be like out here having fun and creating and things, but like we still have that fresh, like, don't come over here.
it almost because we done tamed our shadow self. Like the shadow self ain't never went anywhere. It's just that now it's
Yeah.
like higher self and the shadow self is working together.
Locked in. Locked in.
No longer divided. So watch out.
No. Yeah, right. I wrote also in my book that I said, I called it like taming my beast. Like, so now my beast and I are both, I went down, I forgot how I said it. I dove into the abyss to get to know, understand, and become an ally with my beast, my shadow self. And now I have gotten to the point to where like we live in harmony. Like it's just peace, and is both of us in tangent together simultaneously every single day. And we're like, I'm love and light, but ready to fight at any moment. Like, know that.
Facts. And that's just you becoming whole. That's
Yeah.
you becoming one. You become
Yes.
unity of self.
Literally that. Literally that. But that's what I said. It felt like, we were talking about the video game example, but it did. It felt like recently that we have gone from Call of Duty to playing again like Animal Crossing. We're playing like Monopoly or something, right? Just like a very leisurely, no stress type of game, but it just switched, mid firing.
Yeah. I'm here to enjoy a good tea now. What's it?
Right. Like, anyways, to close out on this, I had about, and we've pretty much already covered it, about alchemizing the negative energies into positive energies and examples of doing this, but I feel like we've kind of touched on it. But
Yeah.
if you did you have anything to add on it?
Well, just when it comes to alchemizing the energy of that negative or the energy of that positive, it's basically you're restoring yourself. We talked about restoration, how that's needed before we can actually exalt ourselves to the best of our ability. We have to restore certain parts of ourselves, and we have to go through a timeline of events where we felt those triggers. There are certain triggers that I probably done that happened where somebody. I'll take an example such as somebody at work, right? Somebody could annoy me.
You're right. Right. This has nothing to do with me.
Nothing to do with me. Like, oh, that's how you feel? Okay. Huh. Well, let me go ahead and get back to my mind and my own, you know?
Good for you. Right.
it's like you wake up and you're like, I'm me. I'm good.
This is me. All is well here.
Right, right.
Okay.
You have to always check in with yourself whenever you feel any kind of way, whether it be positive or negative. Positive is something you can build on, and negative is something that you can take away and just put off from far away from you. So that way you can regulate your triggers and you're not reactive, but now you're properly responding.
Right. As taking the time to check in and taking the time to meditate. Because again, if you have time to worry and stress, you have time to pause and meditate.
Actual facts.
Thank you so much, Wise. What do we have to look out for from you? What do you want people to know? Where can people follow you? All the things. I will put it in the show notes as usual on the YouTube so people can find you there. But outside of that, is there anything that you want to promote or talk about that you're doing?
Well, follow me on the Tea Alchemist page. Definitely that. However, as far as what I'm working on, I am working on a book that I'll release to the public later on this year. You know, that's is definitely something to look forward to. So it's going to build on a better discipline, a better way of living. A way of life for to not adopt, but just to take from and apply it using their own uniqueness. Because think about it, is culture is for the individual. You know,
Exactly.
everybody has different processes or ways to process and refine themselves. But what ties us all together is that we utilize those processes to make the best of ourselves without harming the other.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna get some work done, but I mean, like that's it for the most part.
All right. Well, I will have your Instagram linked in the show notes for anybody that wants to follow Wise and learn more about the things that he's doing, buy some tea and all the things. And on that note, thank you guys for tuning in to Ascension with V. And Wise, thank you for being here. And in case you guys don't know, Wise will be a regular because he's amazing at what he does, his knowledge, his leadership abilities and the ways that he is able to communicate the things that we really need to know going into this shift in this new earth. So you can look forward to seeing Wise's face and understanding his knowledge and mind in future episodes as well. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Peace.